They told me not to return to Liguria. Not after the funeral. Not after what happened in that house. But I came back anyway, because ghosts don't rest when the living lie. The sea was gray that morning, the kind of gray that swallows everything: sound, memory, warmth. And as I stood in front of the villa, its shutters sealed like eyelids, I could still hear my father's voice echoing through the halls. Never let them touch what's yours, Isabella. I hadn't listened then, but I would now. Because this time, I wasn't coming home for family. I was coming for justice. The lawyer's office smelled faintly of lemon polish and deceit. Giancarlo sat across from me, his silver cufflinks glinting like little lies. My cousin Alessia was beside him, face painted in professional grief, mascara trembling on cue. "I'm sorry, Isabella," the lawyer said, adjusting his glasses. "Your father's estate has been redistributed." Redistributed, a delicate word for theft. I leaned forward. Redistributed how? He hesitated. The villa, the art, the accounts, everything was transferred under a revised will, signed 2 weeks before your father passed. That wasn't possible. 2 weeks before his death, he was in the hospital, barely conscious. I looked at my uncle. He didn't meet my eyes. Alessia smiled, small, polite, victorious. Something inside me fractured, cleanly, like glass under pressure. And in the silence that followed, I made a promise to myself. You will regret underestimating me. It took me 3 months to find the letter. I'd been sorting through boxes my father had left in his study, mostly receipts and sketches from restoration projects. Then I found it, an envelope tucked behind a photograph of my mother. My name, his handwriting. Inside was a single page. If you're reading this, they've already moved. Trust no one. The real will is with the only person I ever trusted completely. You know where to find her. The words were shaky, rushed, but his intent was unmistakable. The only person he ever trusted. My mother's sister, Lucia, who lived in Marseille. I booked a train that night. Lucia opened the door before I could knock twice. She looked older than I remembered, silver hair, sharp eyes, the same scent of sandalwood and coffee. "You look like your father," she said, "and you've come for what he left you." No pretense, no hesitation. She led me inside, through a narrow corridor filled with paintings, his paintings, my father's lost works. She stopped at a small chest, unlocked it, and handed me a folder wrapped in twine. "He trusted me to keep it safe," she said softly. "He knew they'd come for it." The document inside was notarized, dated 2 years earlier. The villa, the art, the land, all in my name. Lucia touched my arm. "What will you do now?" I looked out at the harbor, waves breaking against the stones. Finish what he couldn't. Grief makes you clumsy. Betrayal makes you precise. I learned to read financial statements, like poetry, each number a hidden confession. Giancarlo had transferred assets through shell companies registered in Monaco. Alessia had forged signatures, routing art sales through charity auctions that never happened. I built a timeline, every wire, every document, every lie. Then I found the lawyer's payment records. A single transfer, $250,000, the day after my father's funeral. I almost laughed. So sloppy, so human. The law could undo them. But I wasn't ready to let the law have the satisfaction. When I returned to the villa for the family reconciliation dinner, they didn't expect me to smile. But I did. Alessia hugged me too tightly. "I'm so glad you came," she said, voice trembling with counterfeit affection. I could smell the perfume of guilt, expensive, layered, desperate. Giancarlo poured me wine. "We're still family," he said. "Your father wouldn't want this bitterness." Bitterness. I let the word dissolve on my tongue like poison. I watched their eyes dart, their hands twitch. They thought I was naive. They thought I'd lost. They didn't see the recorder in my pocket. They didn't know I'd already spoken to the notary, to the authorities, to the press. I wasn't here to forgive. I was here to collect. It happened faster than I expected. Giancarlo was drunk. his tongue loosened by his own arrogance. He spoke of arrangements, of documents, of how she'll never find out. I guided him gently, asked the right questions, pretended to care. When he finally said, "Your father would have ruined everything," I pressed record. And when Alessia whispered, "It doesn't matter, no one will believe her," I knew I had everything I needed. The morning after, I sent the file to my lawyer, then to the notary, then, anonymously, to a journalist in Genoa. By noon, it was everywhere. Prominent family accused of forging will. Art fraud investigation expands to Ligurian estate. Authorities seize assets pending inquiry. I watched it unfold from a cafe near the sea. My coffee tasted like closure. By evening, their calls started. First panic, then pleading, then rage. I didn't answer. Some truths don't deserve conversation. The investigation was clinical, slow, merciless. Every account frozen, every property seized. The lawyer disbarred. Giancarlo arrested for fraud. Alessia for falsifying documents. When the police escorted them from the villa, I was there, silent, still, watching through the rain. She looked at me once, eyes hollow. "Was it worth it?" she asked. "Yes," I said simply, "because revenge isn't about destruction, it's about symmetry." It took 6 months before the villa was legally mine again. When I stepped inside, the air was heavy with dust and memory. My father's studio was untouched, the brushes dry, the canvases half-finished. I opened every window, let the sea wind in, and for the first time in years, the house felt alive. Lucia visited that evening. We drank wine by the fireplace. "They'll never forgive you," she said quietly. I smiled. "They were never meant to." I restored everything as it had been, every painting, every corner of the library, every sign of him. But I didn't rebuild the illusion of family. Some ruins are better left untouched. One morning, while sorting through old letters, I found another note from him. "Don't let grief make you small. Use it." I folded it carefully, placed it in my pocket, and walked outside. The sea was blue again. I had become what they feared most, a woman who no longer needed their approval to exist. A year later, the villa became a cultural foundation. The Moretti collection restored, catalogued, untouchable. People called me strong, resilient, brave. They were wrong. I was patient, that's all. Revenge hadn't consumed me, it refined me. Because sometimes justice doesn't roar, it whispers. And when it does, it sounds like the tide.